Anthony, great to see you. You look like you're traveling.
I'm in a rent-a-car.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm Glenn Hausman. Of course, the wonderful, the incredible, the sensational, the traveling man, Anthony Melchiori. How are you, my friend?
How are you, Glenn? Good to see you. Where are you not at right now?
I am not at a Ritz-Carlton in South Beach, Florida, and I am celebrating us getting back on the road, getting back to traveling. I was in Florida last week. I survived the experience. I think you are in Florida again this week. And you muted yourself. Anthony, you are so muted. There you go.
Out and come back in because it's really hard to hear you.
All right, he's going to go out. And in the meanwhile, while Anthony is out, I'm going to bring some others in. We've got today a great roundup of some fantastic general managers. We're going to be taking the pulse of what's going on right now in hospitality all around North America. First, we got Christine Devers, Complex General Manager over at the New York Times Square Renaissance Hotel, W Times Square. And if that's not enough, the W Union Square as well. Headed down to Florida, we got Jackie Volkart, dual General Manager at the Ritz-Carlton South Beach and the Ritz-Carlton South Miami. I am not at the South Beach Hotel. Jackie, I'm super jealous of you. You get to do it time. And now we're moving on. Our next guest is Marion Harper Treskin, General Manager at the JW Marriott Parq Vancouver and the Douglas, an Autograph Collection Hotel. Ladies, welcome. Really appreciate you being here. Getting a little feedback. If you're not, if you don't mind, just hit that mute button and then our sound will be fine. Ladies, thank you so much. Christine, let's start with you. You're in New York. Things seem to be getting palpably more exciting by the minute. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. For the first time in a long time, I see a bit of optimism in New York City. People are starting to come back. People are starting to get out. Restaurants are starting to open. So definitely seeing some light at the end of the tunnel.
That's beautiful. I love that. Jackie, how are things going down by you in the lovely state of Florida?
Of course, like Miami is wide open, as we all know, and we are so fortunate to be here in South Florida. Everything is open, and you see right behind Glenn, my beautiful hotel, the Ritz-Carlton South Beach. Everything is bustling, the sun is out, and guests are enjoying being away and coming out of a lot of long-time lockdowns up north. So we're excited to welcome everybody.
And Marion, I'm super jealous of you being up there in Vancouver, one of my favorite North American cities, of course, for our global audience. That's on the west coast of Canada over there. How cool is it being one of the newest casino resorts in the entire world?
It is incredibly cool. We are so fortunate. We're already seeing springtime in Vancouver, and we definitely see optimism as well. I mean, I think we're a little bit further behind north of the border at this time, with where we're at with restrictions. But at the end of the day, we've got cherry blossoms in bloom and daffodils, and spring is coming and better things are ahead.
Yep. So, Glenn, there's a new rule. You know what the new rule should be?
What's the new rule?
Only women should run first-class hotels from now on.
We fully support that.
We agree.
I do. I think it's so cool that we got three amazing, powerful, women here today to join us. I'm sick and tired of having men on this show all the time. Anthony, you are an interesting dude because you find working with women executives so much more satisfying than working with us guys over here, right?
Well, I'll tell you something. I was just on a pretty big meeting yesterday raising money for a hotel, and all I got was the two young ladies that were representing us on our team were the superstars. We just sat there and listened, and every time they spoke, I looked so smart.
I really like that. All right. So, Marion, what are you feeling right now? We're moving forward. How are you thinking about finding yourself on that pathway back to profitability? what is going to be your plan to bring success to your hotels over there in Vancouver? Because you're still, I think, going to be hamstrung for a little while without any U.S. travelers allowed to come and visit you.
Definitely. I mean, I think for us, we have a few luxuries in Canada, mostly because in British Columbia specifically, the way that we've managed COVID and the number of cases we've had has been low in comparison to a lot of other locations. So we are fortunate. Travel is not completely encouraged at this point, but we know it's coming. And we know last summer we actually saw a number of people within the province out exploring the place, the place they live, because we are so fortunate to live in this gorgeous province where we've got mountains and oceans and there's just so much to do and explore. So I think for us, a lot of our locals are going to get to see and experience the city they live in like they never have before. So we're excited about that. I agree completely with the borders. It might take some time before we see U.S. travel back to where it was, and definitely international travel. But we know that there's going to be a positive summer ahead. So we're excited.
That's awesome. So Jackie, it's quite the opposite experience that you're having down there in Florida. Whilst people are struggling to travel in Canada and get to there, it seems like it's open season on everybody in Miami. How are you leveraging that opportunity, and where do you think it's going to go from here?
We are so fortunate in South Florida that immediately everything opened, and people like warm weather, of course, and everybody. We see a lot of people driving in. When you drive around Miami, you see a lot of license plates from all over the United States. So there's still a lot of people that really come down for a longer time and stay in Miami. A lot of guests book longer vacations and just settle in. Technology helps. You can do a lot of jobs from home.
I've been coming down to Florida for the last week or two, and renting cars in Florida has been almost impossible. I've never rented from Dollar. I had to rent from Dollar today. And from today till Saturday, it's $1,000 for a rent-a-car. And I was lucky to have it. My assistant was able to get one. My partner is coming down Thursday to look at the hotel, and she can't get a rent-a-car. It's like there's no rent-a-cars in Florida.
Yeah, wow. So there's a new business we need to open. More rental cars.
Well, yeah, some of the rental car companies got really crushed. And Anthony, that's the exact same thing I'm seeing. And I like that you're speaking very New York today. Dollar rent a car. Rent
a car. Right. I caught myself and I said, let me just go with it. Rent a car. I tell you, Florida is. I was just in traffic. I should have been at the hotel. I was in traffic for 45 minutes. It's crazy. I got at the Orlando airport, and I would be in Orlando every week when I ran Nickelodeon Resorts, and I've never seen it busier. I've never seen it, and I was there every single week, 2 times a week, and the airport was insane. I literally had to it was like walking in Times Square at Christmas time.
Yes. We are so fortunate. Really, and I think we're an example for everybody else that is going to reopen up. Like, you can run hotels, you can wear the masks and continue and follow all the rules and just reopen back up and give people comfort to travel.
It's so funny. It's so funny, though, because in New York, as you probably know, it's just our mind is so different. It's because we got hit so hard that it's like it takes us a minute. I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm good. I'm still going to wear my mask, but I feel very comfortable down here. But it's a very strange thing for a New Yorker to see crowded airports right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Christina, I bet you're somebody that's really looking forward to seeing more crowded airports.
Well, that's what I said. Is I'm so jealous of Jackie. We long for crowds in Times Square. I've worked in Times Square for 5 years, and never did I ever expect to see a New Year's Eve with no people outside my front door. It was a surreal experience. And we've really, I think in New York, we've had to completely think differently and reinvent ourselves. We can't rely on Broadway. We can't rely on our international travel. So we've had to totally reinvent our offerings and come up with different, utilize every outdoor space. When I hear about the resorts talking about pop-up taco stands on the grass, well, you can't really do that in New York City, but what outdoor space do you have, and where can you create opportunities, or where could you partner, right? We're all suffering in New York. How do you partner with your local restaurants to create some really exciting packages that is going to make people want to come back to New York City?
Yeah, we were saying off camera, no one got hit harder than Times Square. I mean, Times Square I always said Times Square, revenue management starts in Times Square and then it just goes out from there. And, but Times Square now got hit hardest than probably, I think, any market in the country. I can't imagine a market that got hit harder. And you're running some epic hotels and some real legends in Times Square. So, you in the last year you got I'm sure you have a lot of experience, but you got 30 years experience, probably not 1 year in Times Square.
Yeah, well, I had my 30-year anniversary in January, and I would say that I've learned more in the last 12 months than I have in my 30 years about, strategic, about, kind of going to war, right? Because it was survival of the fittest, and you needed your best and most cross-functional people to survive. And I'm happy to say a year later, I have lots more tools in my toolkit for future success.
Talking about female executives that have been in Marriott forever, Manny, who's a good friend of mine.
Very good friend of mine.
Know Manny. Yeah, I'm sure you all know Manny. She should be on this call, Glenn. Why isn't she here?
Because producer Dave's an incredible failure. That's all I have to Just kidding. We know he's an absolute pro.
Because Manny was smart enough to leave New York just in time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know what? This is what I say about Manny. Manny took over the Algonquin after I left, and she's one of my dearest friends, and I always say it's Manny's world. We just live in it.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about Manny and I. When I joined New York, Manny was the only female general manager in New York City, and we felt like there was like a boys' club going on. Yeah. So we didn't like it very much. And so when we merged with Starwood, we went from 2 female general managers to 5. And we started our own girls club, and the guys actually wanted to join our club. So that was all Manny and I.
Nice. It reminds me of like the Our Gang shows, your little club, no boys allowed or something like that.
They were trying to find out where we were meeting so they could come and join our club.
Yeah, don't tell them because boys will ruin everything. Marion, I want to turn it to you. Our friend of the show, Michael Weinberg, asked, "How do you think differently?" Obviously, this is the key to success post-pandemic. You had to change everything, all your business drivers, everything that you're thinking about. How are you doing it, and how do you feel about some of the results that you're seeing?
Well, I mean, definitely, you're right. We had to think differently about everything. The results have been actually incredible and surprising in some cases. We've learned so much in the last year, and I think about, the one big thing I learned is that as a leader, none of us had kind of been there and done this before. So you're asking people to have the trust and faith to follow you down a path that you're really not sure if that's the path. So building trust was huge this year for me, but also just working with the team. And I have to say, my God, we went into it. We were basically closed for about 4 months, the JW, and then we were given the ability to open from the ownership group, but we had to do it in 3 days. And so right away, your first instinct is that's not possible. But I tell you, don't ever limit, your possibilities. Our team pulled it together. And as Christine said, we had people doing everything and anything that needed to be done to get us open. And just the flexibility and the agility of everyone of doing what you needed to do, so far from who we were before we closed. But at the end of the day, it was incredible. It was just an incredible experience. And I think, obviously making decisions now, you're weighing things out very differently. Our guests are making decisions so differently, right? What was so important to them before and the choice of a hotel has just changed. And so we need to be able to pivot to that as well. So I found it's been as Christine said, a huge learning year. And I think for me personally, we really had to sort of lean on, women are known for their soft skills, and my God, they were helpful this year, right? Whether it was just listening and empathy and understanding and just building trust, because that's a lot of all we had to go on many times is when we were saying, hey, I'm going to lead you down this path. I'm not 100% sure if it's the right one, but, please join me. And I think that's what made us successful.
Yeah, wow. I think that's very interesting because trust is not about having all the answers. It's about if we get down the path and we're on the wrong path, like no one's going to get upset that you're on the wrong path. We're on the path together. And that's trust. And you really don't understand that until you're in situations like this, that, trust isn't having the answer. Trust is being on the path. And if we have to go back 10 minutes, we go back 10 minutes and we get on a different path. But the team feels that we have each other's back. And this year, I would imagine that's been, for all of us, has been incredibly important. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I do want to ask right now what I'm hearing and Glenn's hearing from everyone is that it is almost impossible to find labor to have people come back to work. So how are you finding?
Let's gear this towards Jackie, because Jackie, you've got the opposite problem, right?
Yeah.
You've got people coming to your hotels everywhere. So do you have staff to service them in a way that people want to be serviced?
So, I mean, it's exactly the opposite. Like some hotels are still like ramping up. I call it came like a tsunami. The guests came. The employees taking a lot longer to come and be confident again, to come back to work. They have been accustomed to be at home. So it's really, the challenge is to get people, to convince people, come back to work. It is fun at work and we can create unique, memorable experiences for our guests. But it has been a struggle to just get the labor back into the hotels because the guests are here.
Right.
It's labor. Mm-hmm. So.
And they have an expectation. How are you able to meet those expectations? Because I know you're not leaving them to be upset about stuff. So how do you manage with less staff than adequate, that you feel is adequate, to be able to deliver that exceptional service that people expect when they stay at a Ritz-Carlton, for example?
I think the first thing we talked about is trust, like really trusting everybody and have, like Christine was saying, the multi-talented ladies and gentlemen, the ones that can do more than one or two or three jobs. And a lot of people put in huge commitments. I mean, people working long hours and the commitment, and we do a lot like bring your friends, bring your neighbors, talk about this. Hospitality is such an incredible career. Bring people on board so we can we have the business. Now we need to get the labor to come here.
And Marriott
Christine,
has done a great job because many of my people who aren't able to work have actually gone down to Florida and have been working for the last, couple of months. For me, that's great because instead of them going to work for another company because they have no work, they're in Florida, they're still working. And then when the business comes back, I can bring them back here. So that is.
Uh-oh, Christine, you muted yourself.
Sorry.
Hey, Christine, how's it been, the work rules, being in New York and being union properties? How are the work rules working with, like, if you're in Florida, you have somebody doing 3 jobs. I know, being a general manager myself in union properties in New York City, that's not something that's, looked on favorably.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, it becomes difficult as you bring services back. It's not as easy for us to just go ahead and bring back our restaurants and outlets. We have to really think differently and we have to slowly bring them back. Our ADRs are much lower than they were in the past. So we have to creatively restore our business, but also thinking with a real financial lens. Like maybe we can't come back with a full restaurant. Maybe we can come back with a bar and, some small bites. It's really kind of looking at our operation and coming up with creative ways to restore our services.
That's pretty interesting. I just got to go back to what you were saying about kind of sharing staff, sending people down to Florida, for example. Christine, are you worried that they're never going to come back? They're going to like working for Japanese?
I know. When they send me pictures in January when I'm in the snow and they're on the beach, I definitely worry. But, like we said, trust and loyalty. I let them go because I know they'll come back.
Jackie, what's it like having a staff that's so cruel to a fellow GM?
No, I think like Christine, like we have a lot of people from New York. We have like leaders on task force, and I try to convince them that love Florida and stay with us. Yeah. But the true New Yorkers always go back to New York. We know that. So you shouldn't be afraid. They will come back.
Yeah, forget about it. We love our region. Marion, I feel we got to get you in over here. What is your situation in regards to staffing? Because I feel like you're probably running a little bit lower occupancy right now than Jackie is. Just a hunch.
Yes, we're definitely running lower occupancy, and for us, a lot of the associates, it's been over a year that they've been, on layoff, and so they haven't been able to. We haven't been able to provide hours. So I guess on a positive side, many of them have found other jobs, but not permanent jobs, just part-time work. So that's making us obviously, at least they're being taken care of and financially have some sort of means. We also have a similar situation, maybe not to the same extent of New York and Miami, but we do have resorts in BC that are busier than the city properties. And so we have been able to lend associates and go on task force to like the interior of BC, the Okanagan. They're seeing quite high occupancies on weekends as well as Whistler. So we're doing the similar things where we are sharing some of the teams, but we definitely are not, I'm probably half of the occupancy that they're seeing at this point. But summer will be the issue. And we are seeing the same, that we're very quiet and then we'll have a big peak over a weekend, Easter weekend coming up. And then it's like you scramble to get enough associates in to be able to deal with that occupancy. And then you drop right off again during the week. So it's a challenge. It's a constant challenge for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's one of the great things about having a brand, especially since you've all been with the brand for so long. You know what leverage to pull and push to really kind of help each other. And that's what's great if you're an owner about having a brand like Marriott, is because they have all the capability in the world. If you're having challenges, imagine independents or lesser brands, what they're going through. So, I know brands sometimes get a bad rap, but in crisis and things like this, I would imagine it was a lot easier, not easier, it's probably the wrong word, but it was a lot more comforting knowing that you had a group of people really helping and supporting each other.
Yeah, and you bring a great point, because I think the culture, Marriott's always been known for their culture, and even some of my, associates that ended up getting laid off or furloughed and had to find another job, they continue to reach out to me and say, I miss the culture piece, I miss Marriott, and, when and if my job ever comes back, please call me. And I think that really is a, testament to what Marriott stands for, is their culture.
Yeah, for sure. Christine,
Absolutely.
do you think you're going to be in a position soon to really start hiring people back? Because it really does seem that the trends are happening right now. And while I'm hearing from some of my my friends in New York City, the reservations are starting to trickle in, I think it's going to start to be a steady stream real soon.
Yeah, and I think, Jackie brought up the point where they went from like 0 to 100 in no time. Do I think that's going to happen in New York? No, but I do think that it's going to creep up quickly. And I think we've had the opportunity to sit on a lot of panels with Florida and learn a lot from what they kind of suffered through, to be able to say we need to gradually start bringing positions back. And I know at my 3 hotels, over the next 30 to 60 days, slowly but surely positions are coming back, because we're preparing. We don't want to get caught with a phenomenal summer or fall or fourth quarter and not be prepared. So slowly but surely we're getting there.
Are you starting to see groups at all? Anything for future bookings?
It's very, for in New York, it's very small, because I think people are tentative to make any kind of commitments, right? You have Javits Center still acting as a vaccination site. International travel has still got borders closed. So I think it's more small pop-up short-term groups that have really been the success that I've seen at my 3 hotels. And entertainment production, like people are still, making videos or shooting, different things for entertainment. That's really been our success.
Excellent. Mark Ergang says, you're a rock star, Christine. Great to see you.
Hey, Mark, long time no see.
Yeah, that's great. So that's fascinating to me. So I think some of this is culture, right? New Yorkers are a little bit more scared. They're a little bit less willing to pull the trigger. I'm a New Yorker. I'm still feeling a little bit about that anxiety, where people in other locations seemed ready to just get back to it, get ready to have their events planned. So, Marion, are you seeing group business start to come back in any sort of way whatsoever? And how do you think Canadian culture plays into what you're experiencing right now versus Florida and New York culture?
We're not seeing anything short term. It's more long term, but it's great that the conversations have started again about booking and signing contracts and future business. And, we've seen a lot, even since January, there's been a definite change in a request for future. And I'm talking 2023, 2024. 2021, currently in the province of British Columbia, you're not permitted to have meetings or events. And so again, short term, there's nothing that we can do at the moment. We were at one point during the last year able to have meetings up to 50 people. normal. And we hope to get back to that as the first step. And when that happens, there is going to be pent-up demand for sure. We are seeing, everyone's just waiting for that time. But for future years, yes. And as I said, there were a few long months last year where really we were checking in constantly with our clients, but there wasn't a lot of discussion about business. It was, how are you doing and how is your family? And now it's more, okay, do you have availability? And we're seeing contracts being signed. So again, it's going to take time, especially with the Canadian-US border continuing to be closed, because a lot of our meeting business is coming from the States. But for our hotels as well, a lot of it was international. Being new to the Vancouver landscape with a JW, a luxury product with the Douglas, the Autograph Collection, and big meeting space, all in this integrated resort, drew in new meeting guests and meeting potential for Vancouver. So we had a lot of international business prior to COVID. So we'll get back there. It's just going to take us some time. But I feel like we've turned a corner.
So on a different note, Glenn, can I ask a question? Can I go off on a tangent a little bit?
Oh, that sounds fun.
Which I do every day. Listen, you're all high-powered executives. You've all been doing this a long time. I can learn a lot from everybody on this call, except Glenn. And what have you learned? And I'm not going to take a softball answer. And I'm not going to. And I really want to know, what have you learned about yourself in this last year that maybe you didn't know? Because this challenged all of us. I would imagine there's not one person on this call that hasn't had a really bad day this year. So what have you learned about yourself during this very stressful time and challenging period?
You got it. Who are you kicking it off to, Anthony?
Anyone? Jackie.
I'll go.
Jackie,
All
you
right,
answer.
Christine goes first.
Christine, then Marion. All right, there we go.
So I think, for me, when the onset of the pandemic happened and we started putting together plans and actions, to me, it was, this is, going to be a 30, 60, 90 day, opportunity to try to survive. And then every day, you saw things getting worse and worse. I was asked to take on a third hotel. I'm like, I can't run two hotels, let alone a third. But I think the power of keeping people positive and being a leader who stayed in touch with people. And, I made sure that as I had to deliver bad news to people, I was part of those conversations. And I was sending out newsletters and videos, focusing on the positive, on, whether you're home or whether you're at work. So I guess it's the power of resilience. Like, you can overcome challenges if you just continue to try to stay positive and keep your team positive. Because we could have focused on a lot of negative, but by focusing on the positive, I think we were all in together. And it was the power of positivity for me.
How did you focus on the positives in such a dark, dark time when you were dealing with having to lay people off and, they would suffer greatly potentially?
And I'll give you an example. We were lucky enough at two of my hotels to secure a first responder piece of business. And, from a revenue perspective, that was great. It was March and there was no business in New York City. And yet the reaction of my staff is, we're going to be housing medical workers. You're going to, increase my chances of catching COVID. And you had to give people the option to take care of yourself, right? If you don't feel comfortable working in this environment, then you should really take care of yourself and your family and go out. If you want to stay and you want to work, those options exist. And it was just, everybody had to make a decision for what worked for them through the darkest days. And to have to tell you that having those medical workers stay with us, they became like family to us. And they were the first, my staff was the first people they saw as they left for a hard day and the last people they saw when they came back at night. And it was such a rewarding experience for anybody that stayed on and worked. And that's where you find positivity amongst the negative.
Right. Jackie, what have you learned?
So at the offset of the pandemic, I was actually at the St. Regis in San Francisco. And we all know, the California was very much locked down. So I kind of know what Christine and Marion go through. I was right there in the middle, and it was all about positivity. Exactly like Christine, I thought this is over in June. So I think it's really, we learn about resilience and to just stay positive and stay engaged with the team and keep communicating with the team. We did Zoom calls, just to stay engaged and keep everybody. But of course, when you have to lay off your team. I did it personally because I think that's the reaction. And it shows us as a company, we truly do things from the heart. And then finding business, we were very fortunate to do the MBA camps and got all the MBA teams. So we were able to keep a lot, like not a lot, but some of our team members.
Does that mean you have really big beds and really tall showers?
Exactly. So, but I think it's like really what we all learn is to work together, to trust each other, to really communicate and build a strong team. And I think whoever you worked with the closest, they're going to be, as we always do in hospital, friends for life. Because when you go through tough times, you're really building stronger teams and you work together.
Excellent. Marion, how about yourself?
I would say, I mean, obviously what Jackie and Christina both said about communication was really, really critical. And I think the positive communication and also really, you know, for us, it was staying in touch and it was, even if we didn't have what they wanted to hear, is at least giving them something, some sort of an update, because it opened up a door for dialogue with them. So we could actually see them on the Teams call and check in with them and make sure they were doing okay. Because I think well-being became a huge concern for all of us, emotionally, you know, even physically and financially for a lot of our associates. And so opening the conversation around what resources we had as a company with Marriott, we have great programs through Me Equilibrium, through LifeWorks. I think it was really worth it to start talking about what are you doing about self-care? If you're at home right now, what new hobby have you started? Share it with the group. And it would motivate other people to say, hey, I could do that as well. You know, so I think just the open dialogue of we're all in it together, you know, here's where we're at. I don't have all the answers, but this is what I can tell you. And that just allowed people to still feel connected, even though so many of them were at home. And it allowed that positivity to come through, that it might not have been businesses coming back booming as we hoped, but what were those other little successes or good stories we could be sharing that are helping to motivate each other? And I mean, that was the biggest thing I learned is it's better to give them a message, whether it's the one they want to hear or not, but stay in touch and stay engaged with them. Because then as things do improve and you need people to be coming back, you need to know where they're at, but you also need to know, again, that they're willing to come back and wanting to come back. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the biggest learning.
And I think that's so important. You just said stay engaged. And I think as we get back to work and as we're putting this hopefully in our rearview mirror, people are still going to have a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder, because not only are we dealing with people out of work and we're dealing with challenges and we're dealing with everyone learning from, if you have kids, learning from home and teachers teaching from home, but you are dealing with a germ that may kill you if you touch a doorknob. You may walk outside and somebody may breathe on you and you may die. So that, if you really think about what we've been through, especially in New York, as there's some people like we'll handle it and we'll be able to go back to normal. I think I'm one of those people, and I'm sure most people on this call are one of those people. But we've got to be very sensitive to our associates that not everyone is going to be able to put in the mirror and just go forward. Especially those of us who've lost people around us.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think as leaders and as general managers, we've got to be cognizant of that it's not one size fits all. And I think sometimes we just we're so worried about business that we forget what people have been through.
That's a really good point, Anthony. Jackie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think, for example, what we do here, everybody who comes back, we do like mini orientations, really to make people comfortable, because when they come back the first day, that's the most critical day to come back. Like, really teach them, like, we are here, we do everything safely, we do everything, we wear the mask, we do the distancing, just like to really give them comfort, because we know not only our guests went for this, our employees went for this exact same. So give them comfort and trust that we take care of them. I think is really critical when people come back to work.
Yeah. Anthony, I'd like to see some of the major hotel companies put a higher emphasis on mental health issues going forward. How can we help get all of our employees, how can we get all of our community to get back to where they need to be in order to take care of themselves and our customers?
You know, Glenn, before we throw it to to our guests, I think it's very important that it's instead of having a phone number in human resources and saying, hey, there's people there to help you, I think this year we've got to really be engaged, and we've got to really do things that really kind of bring people, kind of they bring it right to you, and where it's real helpful. Because listen, I'm the last person that's ever going to go see somebody because somebody tells me to go see somebody and there's a phone number. If there's an activity or if there's things going on in the hotel that we're able to kind of talk about things, or you have a day where people come in to help you get through things, I'd be more likely to deal with that than I would. Most people don't do that. Most people won't go to the human resources and say, I need help, I need a phone number, or call their medical provider and say, hey, I need help. I think this year, especially the bigger brands, they've really got to do something to make it kind of meet each other. That's just my opinion.
If I can add to that, I agree completely, and that's what we tried. We have a weekly managers meeting, and we started the dialogue right when we reopened about how's everyone feeling, right? In every meeting, I ask a question about well-being and what are you doing for self-care, or there's a whole exercise of what fills your tank and what empties your tank, and I'll say, okay, everyone before the meeting starts, take 2 minutes and write down what are the things that fill your tank, what are the things that are emptying them, and then as we go around the room and you give your update, I want you to tell me what is one thing you're going to commit to this week that you're going to do every day that's filling your tank. And I have to tell you, initially I thought, not everyone at the table was going to embrace this, and a few of them would think, oh, this is hokey, what is she doing? My God, because we're opening the dialogue, people came out and shared things and said what they were doing. And you found out so much about people too, but again, it was encouraging other people to open up. And, we did gratefulness exercises. What are you grateful for? What are the good things that happened yesterday? Things like that just got people talking. And then people weren't afraid to come out. And then if someone was struggling, you could maybe tell by their response or the answer, then you could kind of have additional resources, check in on them and go speak to them and see if there's something where you could help. So I don't disagree, Anthony. I think so many people are dealing with this on very, very different levels. And a lot of it's surprising. It's people you never would have expected to be hit so hard. And you have to kind of peel back some layers to make sure they're okay, for sure.
Yeah, well, first of all, just a big thank you, because that's real effort and that's really being creative and putting yourself out there. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening to this that just learned something, and that general managers or people that are not even in the hotel business that are going to take that. I know I'm going to take that. And I'm going to use that and say what empties your tank, what fills your tank. And one of the things that Glenn and I talk about a lot is what keeps us filled and what keeps us inspired. And one of the things I've learned about myself is I always say I don't like people. I like taking care of people. Well, I realized I actually do like people. And I think this year, not being around people, I'm able to deal, because I don't have a lot of patience. I'm able to have a little bit more patience and really understand people better. So I've really learned that about myself, that I have to be more patient, and I really do love people, and I love being around people, and being away from people has really been something that I hopefully will never happen again. But I'm going to use that and of what fills my tank, what empties my tank. So thank you. Anybody else use any exercises that help their team?
Christine?
I think, the challenge we had is that, you had this essential team, which was doing more with less and trying to be everything to everyone in the hotel. Yet at the same time, these were people who were, had husbands that were essential workers, were managing that there was no daycare for their kids. And, we're managing a whole slew of issues that maybe we never had to deal with. It was hard being a working mother, but now you throw home education and those things on the table. And I think it was really being flexible. If people needed time to kind of work through those, figuring out and pulling somebody, from the bullpen back, so they could go take care of their family needs. Maybe it was flexibility with the schedule. I know Jackie brought up the other day to me that she allowed somebody to work remotely from another state in order to be able to be closer to their family. So I think it really, it was a level of engagement of knowing what was going on and what people's personal hurdles were, but then adjusting your operation and using your humanistic side to kind of help us to get to the next level versus just saying we can't make this work and then losing good people.
Right.
That's really fascinating. I think it's so great that there's going to be a heightened emphasis on taking care of people going forward. We think always about taking care of our guests, but we don't think necessarily enough about taking care of those that are in our hotels every single day, taking care of those guests. Marion, I want to kind of go a little left turn here on you right now. One of my favorite restaurateurs of all time is the lovely, incredible Elizabeth Blau of Elizabeth Blau and Associates. And for those of you who don't know, she's one of the most influential restaurateurs on the entire planet, working behind the scenes to create so many amazing concepts you all know out there. And she was an integral part over at the Vancouver Park Resort. Never had a chance to talk with her about the restaurant program out there with her. Like working with such an incredible restaurant professional, and what has that done to help you get people in the doors and make sure that they have an overall well-rounded experience when it comes to food and beverage?
And before you answer that, I have to say goodbye to everyone because I'm being told I have to move my car. So it was a pleasure. I look forward to seeing and meeting all of you. And Glenn, are you able to handle this by yourself?
No, but I'm going to stay. Anthony, I wish you could have stayed here so we could watch the arrest video, but oh well. I guess we'll have to move on. Good luck today, buddy.
They don't play in Florida,
Thank you.
man. All right, Riley, thank you so much. It was an honor. Thank you.
All right, Marion.
Okay.
Who I love, absolutely,
Yes.
but wish I got to spend more time with. Tell us a little bit about the F&B program, how that all came together, and how perhaps it's changing to better reflect today's needs of people.
Of course. Elizabeth's an icon in the industry for sure. She was amazing to work with. She was there years before construction even started, you know, working on the theming and the design and the development of the resort itself. So as I mentioned, the resort is actually, it's an integrated resort with 2 hotels, the JW Marriott and the Autograph Collection, the Douglas, as well as a casino on 2 levels. And then we have 7 restaurants and bars. And the restaurants and bars are majority operated by Elizabeth Bell and Associates. And she brought, you know, just obviously a wealth of information, and the design of these projects or these restaurants are incredible. Instagrammable moments everywhere. But the food and the theming, like she has her original honey salts in Vegas. So she did her only other honey salt here in Vancouver in the lobby of the JW. And it's a farm to table concept. So it's a perfect fit for Vancouver. And then as well, you know, we've got the other restaurants throughout the building. But right now, one of the biggest draws for us, and thank God for, you know, Elizabeth and Food and Beverage, why people are choosing to stay at the JW today, as though, you know, it's just, there's not a lot of leisure travel, but those that are coming is we have 2 restaurants that are open. Now, I shouldn't say that because of last night at midnight, they closed indoor dining until April 19th. But before yesterday, we had 2 restaurants that were open. They both have beautiful patios, so we're still serving outdoor dining. But that was a big draw for us, for people choosing to stay with us. The casino is completely closed. But our hotel is open, our spa is open, our beautiful outdoor spaces with the patios from the Victor, which is the steak and seafood restaurant on the 6th floor of the hotel that is operated as well by Elizabeth's team. And that has helped us, right? So much so because, again, there's so many few options in Vancouver right now where you're having a hotel that has an operating food and beverage outlet. And just, you know, for Elizabeth and Kim both, they're just, you know, they're icons in the industry and people know them. And then the draw that it's brought to the park as well, like the resort itself, has been amazing, because you can come into our hotel and honestly stay for a few days and not really leave, because you've got hotels, you've got casino, you've got spa, you've got restaurants. It's really an incredible project. So it'll be exciting when we can get it all back up and running again. The provincial health organization will decide when the casino will reopen, and that will obviously, you know, start to change the world that we're in today. But it was a pleasure. It's always been a pleasure working with Elizabeth and Kim.
That's awesome. And I really do hope that you could get that casino open again, because we're seeing casinos down in the United States operate without any problems. I was a big proponent of everything closing down at first, but I think we've learned enough now with stuff that we could get things open in a safe manner. Separate companies, I think MGM Resorts have done a great job at setting the stage for that. Resorts World out here on the East Coast has done a great job. Love going to see our friends over at Mohegan Sun. I could go on and on with that. But Jackie, you've got a lot of outdoor opportunities for dining. What's the dining scene like by you?
Yes, so we have like beautiful restaurants. Like we have one like the Lido, which is right oceanfront, like really beautiful place. Just out as you go for the day, you come off the beach and you eat there. We have Fuego y Mar, which is like indoor, outdoor, and we see a lot of guests. It's like the indoor side. We have beautiful windows that opens it up. But we see a lot of people doing Zoom calls or office calls as they work from the hotel not the hotel room. Really, guests don't like to work in a hotel room. They like to be and see other people. So we see a lot of our guests just working, having breakfast, working, and then the pool is ready to welcome everybody.
Yeah,
So,
that's absolutely right, Jackie. I'm a big fan of being alone together, doing my own thing, but kind of being part of the scene at the same time. Christine, that of course has been difficult for you because New York City is a much more either you're indoors or you're not really part of the connection to the city. New York really loosened a lot of the restrictions when it came to dining this year. You're now allowed to, in a lot of cases, have outdoor dining right there on the street, which I think is pretty awesome. Have you been able to leverage any of those experiences outdoors at the 3 properties you're operating right now?
The 3 properties that I have don't have a lot of ability to utilize outdoor space. But what I've really seen in New York is some other restaurants that do have the ability to create these really awesome spaces outdoors is really partnering with them. They need our business. We need their business. How do we create opportunities to kind of share resources from that standpoint? The one thing we have at the Renaissance is we have terrace rooms. So we're the only hotel in Times Square that actually has a terrace. So how do we promote that and come up with different ways for people? Either, there's 7 rooms on one floor. Maybe they want to have a family reunion outdoors on their terrace. How do we leverage the spaces we do have to create unique experiences for our guests?
Wow, that's pretty cool right there. Christine, let me ask you another question. How have you shown up in the New York City community to keep being an important part of New York as we head towards reopening and reinventing?
I've always been very active in the New York City market. I was the head of the Marriott Business Council for 3 years, which was a very rewarding experience. As much as it's time consuming, it definitely gives you a lot of leadership and opportunities to consult with the regional team. But I think over the course of the last year, my role on the board of directors of the Hotel Association has been extremely important, because you're not only dealing with, there's a lot of politics going on, there's a lot of regulation going on. There's a lot of opportunities to get in front of the right people to get things done for your location and lobby for it. And so being part of the community and being part of associations, although, in this day and age, nobody has a lot of extra time to do those things, but I still think they're very, very important to the success of not only your establishment, but your career, because you're building relationships through those opportunities.
Right. Absolutely right. I think that's a great point. I was honored to be accepted to be part of the Long Island Hospitality Association's board in the middle of last year, because it's so important to participate in all of this to help move us forward. And for all of you out there that aren't part of associations, it's an incredible networking tool to get you much quicker on the inside. Jackie, are you finding experience within your community, either on hospitality boards or participating in other ways to help make your community better?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as Christine, I was also the chair of the Bay Area Business Council back in San Francisco, and it's truly an incredible venue to connect with the city and with all your peers in the city. Here in Miami too, we have calls with the mayor of the city mayor and the hotel association. We do a lot of things together to promote and do things as a destination. We always have to work as a destination. So it's really to have a seat at the table.
That is absolutely right, because the power of creating a draw for the entire destination will have a trickle down effect for all the properties within
everybody.
Marion, Vancouver, how are you participating in the community there?
In Vancouver, we actually, I'm actually the chair of the board of Tourism Vancouver, our destination marketing organization. And when this all began, we as the lead entity in the province actually quickly created a task force group on recovery and response. And it was amazing because we pulled people and businesses in from all different, realms of hospitality, and really, collaborated and aligned and talked about first the response of what was going on and how as an industry we're going to deal with it. But then we actually started to work through the steps of recovery, and we still have the recovery group and we're still working through it because we're not quite there yet. So that's played a big part of it. And it's been, lessons learned in the sense of all of these organizations existed, but maybe we didn't work as closely together as we should have. And we didn't didn't really have one voice as an industry either in the province. And so it has been so beneficial for that, for us to all understand we're in it together, and together we're stronger. So what can we be doing? And then I'm also obviously involved with the Hotel Association as well, and they play a big part in our marketing organization, because a large membership group of our tourism Vancouver are hoteliers. So the kind of two combined have definitely had a voice, and we've had to work with the Canadian government, the provincial government, talking about the different programs that existed and how we as an industry needed them to survive. So it was, it was definitely, and to Christine's point, no one has a lot of time right now, but it was just so important, and we've had to keep the conversations going. So it was, I'm really proud of the work Tourism Vancouver has done, and the province as a whole, and how we've come together.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I got to tell you look extremely well rested for somebody who hasn't slept in a year. So that's pretty impressive. All right, let's wrap up. Get a little final thoughts from everyone. Christine, let's start with you. We'll just keep going around the horn. Anything that you want to say? Promote your hotel and end us with something positive.
Well, first and foremost, New York is opening up, so everybody should come back to New York. The weather's getting nicer, and we're open for business, and there's some great restaurants that are really struggling, so we need everybody to come back. We have these beautiful terrace rooms where you can be outside and inside at the Renaissance, and lots of great stuff going on in Times Square and Union Square, so come be a part of it. But as for the female leaders out there, I just give a word of advice is be a part of the change you want to see, get involved, do more than your day job, and we need more female leaders. So we're here to mentor you and inspire you, and looking forward to more success in that area.
Tell me how you have dealt with a bad situation that some male leader put you in.
You know what? I think that it's important that you have a voice. And I actually think that sometimes, and not to be judgmental, but sometimes people's egos get in their way, and I don't let my ego get in my way. But if somebody does do that, I feel it's important to challenge them and let them know whether they take my advice or feel that what I'm saying is right, but you have to have a voice. And that's the only way we're going to see more change in the future. Right.
Be strong, be present, and definitely don't be demure. None of that stuff is going to help any professional out there. I think particularly women professionals. Jackie, same question to you. Say something inspiring and tell us a little bit about your hotels if you want to plug as well.
Of course, like the Ritz-Carlton South Beach as well as the Ritz-Carlton Belle Harbour, both hotels are open. They're stunning hotels with an amazing team of ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to welcome everybody back down to South Beach and South Florida. Also, I think for the women in leadership, it's so important to speak up. And I want to say to the ladies, don't take notes, be part of the project, but don't act as the note taker. And place yourself in the right seat in the room and have a voice, and always volunteer. And like we talked about, sometimes we don't have enough time for all the things we want to do. Find the time, because it's extremely rewarding, and let's be the role models for all upcoming hospitality professionals, not just ladies, also gentlemen. We need to inspire that this is an amazing career, one of the most beautiful careers that you can work in, and hopefully we can inspire many to come and take our footsteps.
Right. I do find that sometimes women allow themselves sometimes to be steamrolled by men who for some reason come off as more confident, not necessarily earn confidence, right? But just they come off that way. I love what you said about don't be a note taker. That says it all to me. Be part of the conversation. Don't be somebody who's subject to everybody else's thoughts and whims and respond to them. Be in control as well. Is that what you mean?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Excellent. I love it. Marion?
Well, I would say let's get Vancouver on everyone's bucket list. Please, when you can, travel to Vancouver, come up and see us. It's an incredible integrated resort park, Vancouver. We have so much to offer. We are minutes from the seawall, which is a beautiful paved path that goes all around the ocean. And you've got the mountains close by and just the outdoors. And, be sure to come and check out our new property. I'd love to see everybody up in Vancouver.
And you got Victoria Island right by you? Is that what it is? Victoria Island or Vancouver Island?
Vancouver Island, yeah, is just a little ferry ride away. Whistler's just an hour and a half away. And as I said, the Okanagan's only a few hours away as well. So if you head north of the border, there's so much you can see.
And is the coolest. So go to the park when we're allowed
Yes.
to again, if you're in America, and then go check out that island and then come back to the park a little bit more. All right. What else?
Exactly. And I would just reiterate, I mean, definitely have a voice. I mean, this is an amazing industry for women. I mean, and I think that there's so many opportunities in it, but I also think that you know, to risk nothing is to gain nothing. Women have to put their hands up more often. You're not going to know exactly that you can, you know, you may not be 100% qualified for a job that's out there, but put your hand up, because most likely none of the other applicants are 100% qualified either, but women need to risk a little more.
I've never been for any job 100%, you know?
It's
So,
true. Yeah.
it's
We
true.
always talk about, you know, I always use the analogy. Remember when we were in grade school and the teacher would ask a question? You know, as a little girl, you never put your hand up unless you knew the answer. Where little boys were just like, look at me. Yeah. You know, half of them didn't know the answers. So I think we need to learn from that. And I do. And I think having your voice heard, I mean, getting to the boardroom table is one thing, but you've got to have a voice, and you might not be heard the first time. So be okay to say it again and to prove your point, right? And I agree. I mean, Glenn, you nailed it. You know, men come across a lot of times as more confident. It's a fine line with women, right? You've got it. You want to be confident, but you don't want to be seen as something else. So at the end of the day, you know, I just say have a voice. You're there for a reason. If you've been chosen to sit at that table, it's because you have something to contribute. Please contribute. Right? Don't be intimidated. We're all, at the end of the day, that's what you're here for. So I'd say, yeah, inspire.
People in general are intimidated, Marion. What do you tell yourself when you feel intimidated, but have to gather the strength to not show that you're intimidated and take it to the next step?
I think a lot of times you have to go back to what it is that you're presenting, or what, if you believe in it and you know it to be true, whether someone else at the table isn't agreeing with you, you have to say what you know and what you believe and what you feel is the right thing to do. And if someone else isn't agreeing with it, you state your case and you explain why you feel it's that way. I think the big thing is too, is you can't take things personally, right? You've got to be objective, and it's got to be that this is what we need to do and this is why. And you know, I think that would be the best advice I would give. But again, I do think sometimes when someone is intimidated, I think of the very first GM meeting I went to, and Jackie, I loved your point. And I went into a room, and there was maybe 250 general managers. This was 18 years ago. And we went into a room and we did a breakout, and we got into breakouts with a flip chart. And one of the men at the table asked me to scribe. He told me to get up and scribe with the flip chart. And because I don't think he knew I was a GM. That's why I got up there, and guess what? I started running the dialogue because I had the marker, and I'm, you know. So I agree, like that. Don't be the note taker. Lead the discussion. I think that's the difference. And you know, something that might be proposed or be perceived a certain way could be very different in the end. So you know, take advantage of it. Risk. You've got nothing to lose, right?
That's absolutely right. And that is sage advice for absolutely everyone out there. I have been intimidated too much in my career. I have let people roll over me because of unwarranted fears that I got all stuck up in my head and created something that didn't really exist. The way that we create ourselves and create a perception out there of who we are is ultimately who we can be, even if we don't feel it inside. Ladies, this has been an incredible conversation. I'd love to have each and every one of you back soon. And Christine, I can't wait. Next Monday, I might even see you, because I'm going to be coming. You know where I'm going to be next Monday, but we're going to be broadcasting from a super secret location in New York City next Monday. It can't be missed. You're going to absolutely love it. So instead of sending them to the green room and saying goodbye, I'll just say goodbye to everybody right now on the show. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, everybody, what they said, it all comes down to the message I tell you every day. You've got one life, so blaze on. And Anthony says, thanks for taking care of yourself. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.